Welcome to Steel Town. I'm your host, Kelly Fedor, and in our second episode, Back to Black, we'll look at the path forward for the Whyalla Steelworks as the industry navigates the global steel downturn. Let's start with Theuns Victor, GFG Alliance's most senior operational expert, called back to Whyalla to lead the task force that will deliver the Back to Black initiative. That task force will be accountable to the Executive Chairman, Sanjeev Gupta, and Liberty Primary Metals Australia CEO, Sandeep Biswa. Thanks for your time, Theuns. Can you tell us more about the task force that has been established?
So, Kelly, the purpose of the task force is really to sort of turn the Whyalla Steelworks around. And when I mean turn it around from a loss-making business to a profitable business. So that will be the focus of the task force. The initiative itself, we call Back to Black, specifically for that reason. Currently, the financial numbers are indicated in red because of the loss-making. And turning those numbers into black, which means that you actually turn the business into a position of profit. The initiative, in my mind, will basically consist of three distinct phases. The first phase will be to restart the blast furnace. That is a critical step, and it's a step that we are currently in. Second step is then, as soon as we've got the blast furnace in a position where the hot metal can go to the steel making, we will then go into the second phase, which will be the ramp up phase, where we will then start ramping up all the equipment and get into a position where we run the facility at capacity. And then the last phase, which is not necessarily sequential, but this is the phase, the stabilisation phase. And the focus in the stabilisation phase will be to make sure that we become reliable. So at capacity, we have to be reliable, but we also have to be competitive. So it's also the cost base that will have to be addressed.
When you say ramp up and get to full capacity, what does that mean in layman's terms?
So the way that we've defined that is that the blast furnace will be running at a capacity of 1 million tonnes per annum, consistently and reliably. Now that also means that hot metal that is produced by the blast furnace, that 1 million tonnes, will then have to be processed again consistently and reliably through the rest of the plant. And remember that this plant basically produces three categories of products. It produces billets that is mainly provided to Infrabuild. It produces heavy sections, which is then provided to our customers, and it also produces the rail products.
The task force, the initiative, it's a big job. When can people expect to start seeing results?
Very quickly. Given the three phases that we've identified, each of those phases will have specific milestones, and we will make sure that we communicate those milestones to all of our stakeholders, our workforce. If I take an example, the restart of the blast furnace, the phase one, would basically have two milestones. The first one is when we achieved the connection between the tuya level and the tap hole. So basically what we say is the first time that we get hot metal or liquids out of the furnace. The second milestone is when the quality of the hot metal that we produce is such that we can send that material to the steel making facility. Now, in this case, the first milestone has already been achieved. We will also identify certain milestones in terms of the ramp-up phase, where there will be specific initially startup dates. When do we start up the steel making? When do we start up the heavy section mill? When do we plan to start up the rail plant? So for each of those, there will be dates. Those dates we will communicate, and we will celebrate those as we achieve them. And then also one step further, as soon as they all run, then the next step is to actually start getting them up to capacity.
This seems like a fairly logical step for the business, but it is a step change and you have provided a blueprint. Why is that important?
I think, Kelly, maybe I can start with the fact that the overall steel industry is going through one of its toughest times ever. This actually means that all steel plants are really struggling to stay profitable. In our case, we start with a business that have been making losses for a number of years. Now we're in a very difficult part of the industry and the market, and therefore to turn this business around is going to be a very significant activity and will need a lot of focus and a lot of energy. We also know that we are absolutely committed to our transformation plan. And this puts us in that unique position where we say, but we really do need to have a blueprint to take us from where we are now through this transition phase into the transformed state.
I guess key to that is the people. How are you bringing the team along on the journey?
That's very important. The one thing that I am 100% sure of is that unless we get everybody to contribute to this process, we will not be successful. So part of the way that we structure this is there will be a core team that will meet daily. Those members of the core team will represent the whole workforce and in some cases all our external stakeholders. And what will happen in that daily meeting is that the direction will be given, but then all of that will be taken and those representatives will connect with their part of the workforce and stakeholders, and we will generate ideas and we will also generate commitment and ownership of those ideas. That will come back to the core team. That will then be incorporated, and then we will start driving those improvements.
And how do you feel about being back in Whyalla and the job ahead?
I must say that for me, given that I've spent a lot of time in Whyalla, my family and I have been in Whyalla for more than 15 years, Whyalla is very close to my heart. For me, it's actually very nice to get back. I actually find that the people are still very friendly, very resilient. I actually find it very invigorating to be back. I understand that it's a tough time, and I understand that people were very concerned about the future. But I think if we all work together, and I know the resilience that exists in this community, I'm very convinced that we can make this work.
Theuns spoke about the workers who will be involved in that Back to Black journey. That includes the steelmaking team. Steelmaking is where iron becomes steel, specifically billets and balloons, which are large slabs ready to be rolled into what customers need. As one worker tells John Ortlieb, it's a bit like making a cake.
In our first episode of Steel Town, we heard about how the blast furnace operated. Nick, where does steelmaking come into this?
Yeah, so we sit in the middle. We are after the blast furnace process, but before our steel products and our rolling mill process.
You're listening to Nick Laube, an operations manager within steelmaking. While the term steelmaking sounds pretty self-explanatory, as Nick explains, there's a lot to the process.
The molten iron is delivered to steelmaking via a treadwell system on rails. We tip the treadwell into a hot metal ladle. The hot metal ladle goes into our furnace at the BOS, Basic Oxygen Steelmaking. We blow out any impurities from the iron in the BOF, adding fluxes and alloys along the way. Once it's treated and heated, we tap it into our molten steel ladle, which is then delivered to one of our two secondary refining stations. I like to think of these stations as sort of cake making stations. Depending on the grade we're making, we'll add different fluxes to suit and meet the customer's demand in a final semi-finished product. From those refining stations, the ladle's delivered to the caster where we put it through one of our two machines, the combi caster, which makes slabs and blooms, or our billet caster.
Let's meet one of the workers who mans one of those refining stations.
Yeah, hello, I'm Daniel Clatt. I work in the BOS in the steelmaking. I've been working at the steelworks for 22 and a half years and currently in the position as a refiner at the BOS. So worked up through the ranks from the bottom up to where I am now.
We've touched on the process of adding fluxes. As Daniel explains, that includes lime and dolomite.
The lime and dolomite facilitates chemical reactions which create slag that catches the impurities from the process.
So obviously we have a heavy focus on safety in all of this as well.
Extreme focus on safety. We try and do our best. Obviously, you want to go home the same condition that you come to work in, and you also want to look out for your workmates as well, because they're part of your team that you work with every day. So we make sure that we look out for each other.
Let's go back to Nick now as we look at where this steel ends up and how it impacts us all.
Music wire is one I like to spruik. Piano wire, guitar strings, everything like that. That comes from our high carbon billets, along with automotive suspension. The shopping trolley that you push around your shop comes from our billets.
Steelmaking is a job that requires precision and dedication, and these workers take a lot of pride in it.
When you drive in Adelaide and you see trains go and you see steel on the back of the trains, and you think, I might have made that steel and might have made the heat that made that steel. So yeah, it does gives you satisfaction that you can see results of your work.
Yeah, g'day. I'm Dave Hill. I've been working at Steelworks for around 28 years, 30 years all up. I used to work out in the mines. I'm a melter. I basically organise the hot metal that we receive from the blast furnace to be charged into the BOS vessel.
Each section of the steelworks is integral to the process, and David is also immensely proud of how his team contributes to an outcome that enables all of our lives. When you see that steel that you produce and see some of the structures and projects it goes into, like Adelaide Oval, Memorial Drive, the Whyalla School, does that give you a sense of pride?
It does. I think what we make here is top quality steel, and some of the projects, like the rails, our rails are some of the best in the world.
Another section of the steelworks has recently been adapted to enable a move into the solar industry. Mark Bubasic is in business development and tells us how GFG is now trying to help the nation decarbonise. Hi Mark, can you tell us a little bit about this product?
The product we're making is a solar pile, or the term is solar pile. It's used in solar farms. There is one of our smaller sections out of Whyalla's mill. Depending on the design, they're somewhere about 2.5 to 3.5 metres long and driven into the ground. And then that supports the rest of the structure. It supports a torque tube, which is out of InfraBuild. That's attached to motors, and that allows the solar panel to be rotated to maximise the solar panel to generate the power.
It sounds pretty innovative. How did it come about?
Roll a few years back when I was an operations manager, one of my units was the track lock facility. It was a facility here in Whyalla, which is the plant we're talking about. The Whyalla plant was designed and manufactures steel sleepers. Unfortunately, the market's reduced over time, but what we've got is a capable plant which is highly underutilised. So the plant itself, what it does do is it receives feed from the rolling mills. When you're talking about sleepers, it receives from the rolling mills, it receives a sleeper blank. It cuts or shears that to about 2.5 to 3 metres long. It punches holes through a punching press. Then it forms the final sleeper shape. Then it stacks the product. So it's a very, very effective production line, very quick, and what it does very well. We rolled forward a few years, and we supplied recently through a company called Array Technologies. We supplied 180 UB bars through InfraBuild to the Glen Rowan Solar Farm project. In parallel to that, InfraBuild were doing the torque tube development for the solar farms. And based on that and understanding some of the design, it was we think we can make this. And over that time, in about a year, we've established the capability.
There must be increasing demand for products like this in the renewable market.
So indication is about, for solar posts across domestically Australia, there's indicatively about 40,000 tonnes of posts. So that's a huge amount. Our sort of, I suppose, target would be if we can grasp half that, which is about 20,000 tonnes of posts, and this is all value-added product with good margin, we'll be happy, and that would probably convert an underutilised track lock plant to approaching fully utilised facility.
GFG has an ambition to be carbon neutral by 2030, so this seems like a natural next step to help others decarbonise as well.
It certainly puts us front and centre in the renewable industry domestically, with a local supplied basically final product into the market, which is kind of underpinned. There is some local content clauses in some of the projects, which works in our favour, but certainly it puts us up front with this project. Potentially, if we can make brackets through the track lock clip plant, that puts us there as well, and also in collaboration with the InfraBuild team on the torque tube, we can pretty much sell them a package.
There's a lot of hard work and innovation that has gone into this. How proud are you of this product and your team?
We're very excited about what we've achieved. It's been a really good team effort. It's been a small team, a diverse team of expertise and I suppose different skill sets, but they come together really well. The team was functioned well. All ideas were on the table. They were assessed. We went away and did it, but the team are genuinely excited and very upbeat on what we've achieved and what potentially this can deliver for the business in the future.
In this episode's community segment, I spoke to the extremely driven, selfless, and very busy Tammy Pond. You're a proud Wiradjuri and Korangai woman with a huge presence in the community. As president of the Show Society, a volunteer with Plaza Youth Centre, a member of the NAIDOC committee, just to name a few. Can you tell us where this passion for community work came from?
Absolutely. I've always loved giving back to my community. Whyalla has been a city that's been very kind to me. And I see it as my duty to give back to the community as much as I can. And I'm currently on 14 committees and boards. So I do keep very busy, as well as being Whyalla's deputy mayor. But I do see myself as a giver, and I give back to this community as much as possible.
I named a few of the organisations you're involved with. Are there some standouts for you?
So, the Whyalla Show is definitely the one that I'm very, very proud of. The fact that we're even still going after COVID. I'm also the president of the Eyre Peninsula Agricultural Shows. So I've actually got 7 shows under my umbrella. The work I do with Plaza Youth is super important to me. I do have an education background. So I worked for the Education Department for 32 years, and I'm actually on the board for Plaza Youth, and I support everything they do. I'm passionate about mentoring, and every child needs a champion. So to have these services within our community is vital. We need to make sure that our kids have every opportunity in life to succeed, move forward, and just open up those opportunities as they become adults and give them those skills for life that can be transferred in every situation. I'm also a huge advocate for Clontarf and Shooting Stars, which are Aboriginal mentoring programs, which promote attendance in school, giving back to your community, and they connect our young people with workforce situations. So huge there. And NAIDOC, I'm the chairperson of our NAIDOC committee. So celebrating our culture within our town, educating, and just having those opportunities where we can all come together.
For a community like Whyalla, how important is it that groups and programs like this exist?
Oh, absolutely vital. People need people. We don't want people sitting in isolation. Having those connections within the community is nothing but beneficial for everybody. It helps in a variety of different ways as well, with mental health, well-being, just moving forward in any direction that is needed. Without these community groups and volunteers especially, I think we would have massive gaps within our society. And to be honest, I think it'd be quite scary. Yeah.
And how does GFG's community work intersect with what you do?
Oh, absolutely vital. Just about every single organisation that I'm connected to, actually, GFG help in a certain way. There are some things that they definitely help out sponsorship-wise, but it's also the in-kind support, and they're coming along. They're very connected, got their finger on the pulse. Yeah, so I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and just to know that they're a huge part of our community.
We touched on safety earlier in this episode, but let's reinforce that message again before we go.
Hi, my name is Darren Bergman. I'm Engineering Superintendent at Simek Mining, and this is my safety takeaway. Intervention. If you see something unsafe, don't hesitate. Speaking up could save a life.
Join us next time for another episode of Steel Town.